Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we're talking to Jay Carter, founder of One Music Fest, on the value of a college education, building a brand and acquiring sponsorships, and investing in your own vision. You're listening to another episode of the I Do Music podcast. I'm Sammy, and I'm here with event brand strategist and founder of One Music Fest, Jay Carter. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, obviously how successful you've been over the years in terms of planning events and being what I think to be a brand strategist with like marketing, all the things you've done. But you actually attended college at FAMU, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for business?
Yep, business administration and business economics.
Right. Did you graduate?
Yeah,
I had to ask because...
No, I'm with you, yeah.
Yeah, you got to ask. Yeah. Some people don't graduate from college, and it also brings me to a question of, like, is college important? Do you think you value education in terms of what you ended up doing for a living?
Nah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think people's paths and their lives put them in certain places and points them in certain directions. But for me, I think college was a very pivotal point in my life.
Why is that?
I think as a child, or some people at an early age know what they really want to do in life, and they set out to do that. Be it if they want to be a doctor or an attorney or a politician, they see something on television or something they read and they say, you know what, mommy, daddy, I want to do that.
Right.
And some people, I think they grow and they develop off the energy that's put around them. And I grew up in Harlem, then moved down to Atlanta in high school, and so that was an immediate culture shock. But it was an additional culture shock when I went to Florida A&M, and I'm meeting, black folks from London and Oakland and Miami and Detroit, and you're feeding off all these different energies and all these different creative ideas.
Right.
So I never really saw myself having a corporate job, but I also think I learned a lot from just the people that I met throughout college, and in college. We did a lot of different things, me and my immediate friends and my circle. So, Will Packer and Rob Hardy with Rainforest Productions, and they recently, split, and Will's doing his thing and Rob's still doing his thing. But in college, we actually started a production company and shot our first film.
Wow. What was the name of the film?
It was called Chocolate City. So... And it was just, Rob had an idea, and he was like, he was an engineer major. I was a business major. And,
right.
And Will was in engineering as well. None of us had a film background, but it was like, we fed off each other. And based off that one movie, we got a distribution and production deal. Rob and Will went on to continue to do movies and do great things in Hollywood today. But I think, but I have to pay respect and homage to Florida A&M and college for putting me in a position, a creative position to explore who I was and different ideas, and I'm sure they give FAMU a lot of respect to help them be who they are today in their careers. So I think college is important. It's pretty important.
Yeah, I agree.
Long answer to a short question.
No, I loved it. And you began promoting parties actually in college. Is that true?
Yeah, but I wasn't trying to make a career out of it. I was
right. You were just doing it.
Yeah, I was the guy that liked to have parties.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Why did you decide to do so if it wasn't? Usually people are in college are doing. I know I participated in promoting parties because obviously I wanted to have fun, but it was some financial gain in that as well. For you, if it wasn't for making money, why'd you decide to do so?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, who doesn't like a good party, right?
Right.
So it was fun. I found it easy. We never really did it for money until I pledged my fraternity. pledging is illegal now, right? So I joined my fraternity, right? So, and Omega Psi Phi, they my chapter wanted me to manage that portion of the organization. So I had to do all the events and the planning and the negotiating with the clubs and the venues, blah blah blah. So
Similar backgrounds. Yeah.
but it's kind of like Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi and Danielson. The wax on, wax. He didn't realize he was learning. He was like, well, what the hell am I doing all this bullshit for? And then when it came time to get into a battle or fight, it was like, oh shit, I actually got the skills and the know-how. So I didn't realize I was grooming myself for what's happening currently, right?
So besides the book knowledge, what other values would you say that you learned throughout college and being at FAMU?
Responsibility.
Yeah,
I think from day one, the moment you get on campus, there's no mom, there's no dad, nobody's governing what you do, nobody's telling you what time you need to get up and how to handle yourself. I mean, you got to take responsibility for self. So either you're gonna flunk out of school or you're gonna use this opportunity to excel and be great. So I think responsibility. I think once I realized I had that power, like, if I want to get drunk all day and smoke out and hang out and
you could do
road
that.
trip, I can do that. But where's that gonna lead me? So I think responsibility was probably the biggest lesson I learned.
Word. So tell us a little bit about your first job after graduating, because you ended up going to a corporate job. Is that correct? After graduation, and that's not necessarily where you thought you'd be. So where were you? Might be a better question. Post grad.
So my first job was actually in my family business. My father, he used to be the what was he? The regional VP of marketing or something for Xerox.
Of marketing, really?
Yeah, or sales. Okay. I think. So they gave me 6 months after I graduated. They said, you got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't figure it out in 6 months, you're working for the family business. So, when you're 22, 23 years old, you feel like you got all the answers. You take over the world. So I quickly realized that, I wasn't taking over the world within 6 months. And I worked for the family business. And it was cool. I did well, learned a lot. Pop sent me to sales school. Xerox actually has one of the best corporate sales schools in Leesburg, Virginia. They sent me up there to get more training, which I still apply to what I do today. So that was cool. That was for a couple of years. Then I got hit up by a what do they call them? I guess headhunters. Recruiters. And it was a job as a legal consultant with this company called LexisNexis, and I knew I wanted to make a change, right? And if I was going to make a change and leave corporate, I wanted to do it on somebody else's dollar, right?
Right.
So I took the job because it was a really fluff job. I mean, it was 6 figures. I worked from home. It was a beautiful situation, right? So I was like, okay, oh shit, let me do this for a couple of years, stack my pennies, and then plan my escape.
Right.
So I did that, did well, and then after about 1.5 years, 2 years, I jumped out on faith and started doing the events and brand marketing.
Right. So Soul Fusion, right? What's Soul Fusion? What is that for people that don't know?
Well, it's that was the first event I started, and that was an event based on, I guess, the wide breadth of urban culture and music, right? So, in the early 2000s, I couldn't really find parties like the type of parties I wanted to go to. I didn't want to go to a party and hear the same thing I heard on the radio. I wanted to go to a party and I wanted to hear reggaeton, old school, disco, house,
music.
Afro beats, hip hop. I wanted to hear everything, and I wanted DJs that knew how to play that. And I just couldn't find that, and I didn't want it to be like super granola and incense and motherfucker doing yoga in the basement. And shit. Like, I wanted it to be a party, but played all types of music, and I couldn't find it. So my father always taught me, if you can't find it, then create it, make it.
Dope. And people say that with your events, I obviously wasn't going to a Soul Fusion party necessarily, but that they were well crafted, and you had the amazing DJs, and you also took an account of like ticket pricing and parking, all those things. Why is it so important for you to take into account those little, small, minute details when it comes to planning an event or a party?
I think that it wasn't really about planning things that you did to plan for an event or party. I think it was, and again, this was something that I learned in sales school is that if you put money first, and a lot of promoters do that. A lot of promoters, the first thing they want to do is, I want to make a bag of money, and then typically if you put money as your key objective, then something on the back end is probably going to fail, and that's probably you paying attention to the customer service of the event or the experience, right?
Right.
So when I started doing the events, I wasn't really doing it for money. I wasn't doing it for like to holler at the ladies, and I was doing it for for the experience. So if by putting my patrons first, as far as like the experience, I knew money was gonna come.
Right.
So what would make me want to attend this event over and over and over? So that was my mindset. Like, what is it that I'm missing or would want from an event? And that's how I built it. I built it around that platform first, and I knew money would come eventually. So.
And you started off with these Soul Fusion parties with like about like 20, 30 people, or
Oh yeah, the first ones were small.
Small, and then they grew to be about how large?
Oh, it was thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah, so
wow.
it was pretty amazing. It was an amazing journey.
That's dope. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't have things like email blast and probably some of the tools that you use today for One Music Fest. I'm not trying to date us. I swear.
Back in the day and shit.
I'm just saying. You got to give people
passenger pigeons and fucking smoke screens. And
you got to give people perspective.
Yeah. No,
so
yeah.
in these times, you didn't have the email blast or even social media,
no,
right?
Nope.
So what were you doing in terms of branding and marketing the events?
It was word of mouth was powerful.
Yeah.
Association as well. So being at the event was going to be different, and this is a gem right here. So I knew the event was going to be different, and I wanted a different audience. So what I had to do was physically find them, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to go where they were. So I had to go to the small little intimate parties and the folks that did listen to like the house music and folks that listened to the reggae, and then you had your hip hop heads, like and everybody was just partying in different places and spots. So so I had to put in time in these different communities and those social pockets, let them know what I was doing, invite them out on my dime, have them experience it, and then let it kind of grow within their little social groups and pockets and communities. And before you knew it, it was just, you would turn around and you would see, radio execs and record label execs and, big time politicians, attorneys and models, and, it was all types of and that was the experience that nobody else was giving to them,
Dope.
It was getting them out of their comfort zone and really having them, embrace all aspects of hip-hop urban culture.
That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Fusion. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, fusing everything.
Fusing it, fusing
all
it all
together.
Right.
So you began even working with like sponsorships and partnerships early on in your event promotions career, I guess you would say. And how'd you begin gaining those sponsorships for an event? What was the strategy behind that, or was there a strategy when you first started?
Honestly, no. Honestly, really wasn't. It was really about the experience. So the crazy shit was that my first sponsor was Heineken, and I think it was like year 2 of doing the event, and a young lady approached me at one of my events, and she said, "Yo, I want my company to be involved with these events. These events are dope." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, I work for Heineken, and I would love to have Heineken sponsor your event." And I kind of knew what she was talking about, but didn't.
Right.
So, I mean, being a student is asking the right questions. So, I was a student of the game at that time. So I said to her, what would make for the best partnership, for Heineken? And then she just kind of laid it out there, and I was like, oh, I get it. And then met with her boss and the people at a few meetings. We did a couple of different presentations and decks. And long story short, they sponsored. I think it was for a year or a year and a half that we did a commitment for. And when they wrote that check, is when I realized, I was like, okay,
This is the thing.
This is bigger than a body, right?
Right.
So
That's dope. And I think you strategically at this point probably choose brands or partners to work with in terms of what you're doing. Even when we'll talk about One Music Fest and all the things that you do, what is it what is it about a particular brand that you seek to work with that kind of like, I guess, coincides with your vision? Are there specific, is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for a particular company to coincide with your vision, or are you kind of just looking to see what they offer and what you guys can bring together for the event? If
that's
that makes
another
sense.
good question. No, it makes sense. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, some brands just don't work. So we said no to some brands. We said no to some big brands. And not because it wouldn't work, but they want a lot for nothing.
Right.
And sometimes you have to put a value on your own brand and kind of say, you know what, I don't see the value of what we're offering here, so we'll wait. But I think it's also brands that do align well with your audience and your vision as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play different situations. Like I don't want to name names.
Give them a fake name.
But I think there's some brands that you'd be like, I think One Music Fest is too organic or too wholesome to do business with this type of brand.
Right.
But I think you also have to open your eyes to different possibilities. So this brand is approaching us for a reason. They see value in our audience and our reach, right? So if our audience, like, okay, you can take Pepsi, for instance. Like, Pepsi is going through it right now with that ad that they did with Kendall, yeah. I think their heart was in the right place. I just think the execution was poorly done. It was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And the timing couldn't have been worse, right? But also that was an internal team that put together that entire campaign. They didn't really talk to the people, right? So if Pepsi came to us and said, we want to sponsor One Music Fest, I mean, it's a real sit down conversation, all right? Or how do you envision this being? How do you, what is the tone? Like, what are some of your initiatives? Like, so, and then we have to, juxtapose that with our audience and how they move, how they operate, right? And then we have to meet in the middle. It just can't be like, well, we want to. They can't come with us with a campaign package,
right? And not,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it may not speak to our audience. So, when we get in bed with a brand, like, we really wanted to speak to our audience, and we also wanted to help, to relay their message properly as well. So, the relationships that we're able to build by taking that approach with brands, we've never lost a brand. Like, we still work with brands for like over 10, 12 years later, because we take that approach.
Yeah, that leads me to my question that I have is why your decision making is so important in terms of working with a platform like One Music Fest being so big, and then making decisions to work with other people surrounding, or even artists at that point. Why decision making is so huge for you, even as someone who's like the founder of an event, a platform, just like Pepsi made the decision to,
It's well, what happens sometimes is when you, and I said this before, I think in a podcast or a webinar, you start off being the creator of your brand. In your heart, you know what you want it to be, right? You set out, you say, oh, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be, I'm sorry, but more times than not, you become the teacher, or the teacher becomes the student, right? So you become a student of your constituents and your base, right? So a lot of times your audience will dictate who you really are, like World Star Hip Hop. I don't know if that was their initial intent to be that,
right?
but their viewership, their followers, and the people that were attracted to their platform, um, help dictate who they will be, right? And it was kind of the same thing with One Music Fest. You know, we kind of had this idea, this concept of what we wanted it to be, and it actually evolved into something greater. You know, so in building a brand, I think you have to be very diligent in everything that you do, because I think, especially something that's cultural, and I think we did take on a bit of responsibility when we, after realizing what we actually created.
Right.
Because you can't really find, there's not an open air multi-stage urban festival in the nation that's really doing what we're doing.
Right.
You know, you'll be hard pressed to find a quote unquote black festival where you can turn around and see Nas, then you look the other direction and it's like Gary Clark Jr., and then turn another direction and be like, oh shit, that's the internet. And then say, oh, that's Isaiah Rashad. So it's so I think what we're doing is more than trying to be a big money making festival. It's for a lot of people, it's like a cultural pilgrimage. Like folks start coming from all over the United States to trying to experience this. It is a black urban experience that you are having at that One Music Fest.
You've done a lot for the culture. You talked to where we just said something about culture here in Atlanta. You put a lot of love into hip hop and what it is that you do. Do you feel like you get that back from hip hop or from music itself?
Good question. You got a lot of good questions. Kurt did that?
Kurt's always getting me to ask the deep ones.
Yeah.
The whys.
Do I feel like I get it back?
Yeah. Do you get love back from the community that you put so much work into?
People do things for different reasons. And, I don't do things for like the shiny trophies and the plaques. But what fills me up is when I get the email responses. They may not be directly to me, or some may be directly to me. But when I see the tweets, when I see the messages that come through the Facebook page, when I see the messages that come on through IG and all of the different social media platforms, people say, yo, this is unreal. I've never had an experience like this. This is, to see so many beautiful different types of black, not even black, but yellow and brown and red people and white folks, just that energy and to have hip hop as that stage, that platform that it was built from. And just to hear that and to see that and just to see people's the hunger for it makes you want to keep giving them more and building bigger. That's
dope. The mission of One Music Fest is to unite, or unity through music, right? Where you started promoting with the white and black hand, or black fist, right, together in the logo. Why did you eventually change that? Because I know it changed afterwards. What made you change that?
Well, again, when we first started, it was one thing. It was like, how... Because, let's keep it funky. Like, there's a wall that divides Atlanta. From the outside looking in, it looks like this beautiful, diverse Mecca, this city, this progressive city. Atlanta is not that progressive.
Right.
The one thing that I've noticed is, I like to float to different events and clubs and just social circles. And be it if it's white, be it if it's black, be it if it's Latino or Asian, whatever it is. But the one common link or thread when I fall in and out of these different pockets is music.
Of course.
Right? So when I go to these white clubs or these white events, they listen to a lot of the same shit that we listen to. So I was like, well, so that's where we kind of came up with the unity through music. Like, how do we connect people through music, right? Because it seems like there's a few things that bring people together, food, music, I hate to say it, but death, children, and pets. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Animals.
right?
Yeah.
You know, you could be a damn Klans member, but you walking down the street with a goddamn border collie, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, your dog's so cute! Oh my god, Jesus!" Right? So you go to like a dog park or whatever, and everybody's kind of getting, yeah, it's
Getting
like one.
along.
And
Yeah.
as soon as you walk through the gate and leave the dog park, you know what I'm saying? You that suspicious black guy with the hoodie on. So it's just certain things that just bring people together. We said, all right, but we're gonna use music and food as our platform.
Right.
So it started off that way. We still probably have about a 25% white audience that attends One Music Fest. 75, well, I would say maybe 15% white, 10% other, and 75% black. But we're seeing it. We're seeing more non-black folks attend, more than we expected actually attend, because it's an old business equation. It's like the 80-20 or the 70-30 rule. Is once you get 20 or 30% black, it pushes white folks out. It's the same thing that kind of happens in neighborhoods, you know, what they want to call it, not white flight or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, 30% of the neighborhood starts turning black. That 70% is slowly going to start creeping out, looking for somewhere else to live. So we're surprised actually at the growing number of non-blacks that's attending One Music Fest.
So how did you even create this buzz around the festival? Because and create a demand, I guess, for the show each year as the lineup changed, and especially after last year's. I'm more curious to know like how you live up to reuniting the Dungeon family and Outkast, and how to keep going, moving forward, because you know you've had the Nas, you've had Lauryn Hill, you've had you know, the internet, who's grown so much since they came to One Music Fest. So how do you keep building and creating a demand for One Music Fest?
I think well, let's just say this: last year was special.
It was so special, yeah.
So
Great moment for a lot of different generations.
So a lot of people say, how do you top that? You don't top it.
You don't, right?
Just realize that was a special moment.
Right.
The Dungeon family is the purple unicorn. Right. So it was captured. No, it wasn't captured. It was held for a moment, and you were able to experience it, and then you let it go.
Right.
So you don't top it. Just remember for Atlanta, because that was an experience for Atlanta, right? As far as this year, you build on that platform. You know, it's still unity through music. So how do we build off that platform? But down the road, yeah, we do want to expand it. This day we're going to play around with a 2-day, kind of a pseudo 2-day. So we're going to do a Friday night, and that's going to actually be at Tabernacle, limited tickets.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a One Music Fest-esque experience, but for 2,000 some odd people.
Gotcha.
So you can buy your Saturday ticket, and then your add-on would be Friday.
Gotcha.
And then once those are sold out, just Saturday's going to be left. So we do want to move it to a multi-day platform, but we feel like there is a responsibility that we have with the brand. We did a couple of panels and seminars last year and got great response. So we had like Ryan Leslie, and we kind of discussed like the crossroad, the intersection between entertainment and technology. 1,200 people RSVP'd, about 600 some odd people showed up. So people are hungry for information. So we're going to use our platform to do that as well. So we're going to look to do some more like master classes,
discussions,
panels, and probably package it in a week long of different platforms like
That's
that.
dope. That's dope. And you could potentially see when we talked about it being an open ear. You said something about an open ear platform. You could see a 20-year-old or a student or a 45-year-old politician, you know, similar to your Soul Fusion parties, just being so many different types of people. What strategies or platforms are you using, you and your team use to promote, to reach that demographic? Because, you know, we're all so different. Are you using like a team of ambassadors, a promotions team, or how are you doing that?
We do a little bit of it all. So, yeah, we do have a young team of ambassadors. But social media has made it so strategic, and it's fun. It's really fun. I mean, when you look at the different, because it is it's kind of like it's a strategy. It's like as far as how to reach certain pockets of people. But I think social media really kind of allows you to try to zero in on certain types of folks. So yeah, but it's word of mouth. I mean, we still use your basic terrestrial streams of advertising, print, radio, digital.
Just every try to get every I guess point reached in terms of marketing.
Because they say you got to hear things 6-7 times really kind of react. So
That's
if
true.
you hear it on different channels and see it in different channels, you're
More
prone to
inclined.
react. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And you also, I think it's another thing that because or maybe I was talking to Motown when he was talking about a documentary happening and just like talking about just us seeing kind of like a behind the scenes of what was going on. But I thought which was more interesting was working with all these different artists. It's not just one. It's not like, okay, this is the Dungeon Family or the At Last tour. It's just Outkast. You got to really worry about maybe someone before. But you're working with the multiple artists. How do you manage to have a smooth run of show? Like, I'm sure there's no such thing as a smooth run of show, but how do you manage to keep up with all of the acts on the bill?
It can be a challenge sometimes, but I mean, again, it's not a one-man show, so it's definitely not me pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons. So I think we have a pretty dope team that really understands how to run a show, and I think you gotta.
What is the team comprised of? Like day of, like what sorts of people are in place to make sure that things are running the way they should?
So Cynthia Charles, she's our festival director, but she also does contract work for AEG, right? So, which is a crazy dynamic because she works for AEG, but we also work with Live Nation.
Oh, okay.
But she does a lot of booking and tour management for AEG, so she does this for us as well. So she's dope at just dealing and working with artists and booking agents and management. But she brings on her own team as well to run that day of. Actually, about a week prior.
Okay.
So we kind of put everything in place so we don't have anything to think about come the day of. Everyone's kind of already in place and knows their role. But we have different managers that handle different things at the festival on site and prior. We have a pretty dope team of ambassadors and interns that work out of the office at least 3 days out of the week. So we typically get our team started in April. So there is no surprises.
And the festival is in
September. So I mean, they got a good solid 5-6 months to kind of get up to speed.
You talked about earlier you taking a leap of faith early on to do this full time in terms of like events and branding, marketing. Why do you think it's essential to invest in yourself as an entrepreneur? One of the main things that I think I got from this so far is just not worrying about the money up front. Why do you think it's important to invest in yourself as an entrepreneur?
Well, shit. I mean, Kurt just put me on with a couple of different podcasts and all that. Like I just think that you have to be a student. You know, I mean, so many times I think people get successful and they just get complacent and they just get satisfied. I think knowledge creates hunger. And I think the hungrier you are to get more knowledge, the better you can be at business. I mean, it's impossible to know everything. There's so much out there to learn. So I think you just have to be humble enough to know that, yeah, I'm successful, but I mean, I'm probably scratching the surface of what I can be or what it can be or what the brand can be or what we can be. So I just think, you always have to put yourself in a situation of just constant learning.
So my question is,
was that your question? I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I mean, even if it wasn't, that was great advice regardless. But no, you touched on it a lot. I think that brings me to like, how has the goal changed over with what you were trying to accomplish to begin with over the years? Has it changed in any way due to you learning and watching the numbers and seeing how big the platform could be?
Well,
or
first,
is?
yeah, if your goal doesn't change, I would say at least every 3 years, you need to reevaluate because you're doing something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right? So every time you reach your goal, you have a new goal. So every goal, our goal may be like, I want 5,000 in attendance. I want 8,000 in attendance. I want to bring on X amount of dollars in sponsorship. So you should be hitting your goals if you're doing what you need to be. If you're doing what you need to be doing, so your goals will constantly change. So, so our goal has changed. Our vision has shifted. Some, you know, we're looking to expand the brand and do more digital. As far as producing, I mean, we have terabytes upon terabytes of just content. We have relationships. We have access to brands. You know, so and again, we kind of fall into this place of a responsibility. You know, so when I look around for brands or media brands that own their voice, that's pushing the progressive urban platform or messaging, it's hard to find it.
Very, yeah.
It's hard to find it. You know, there's some people who out there that's doing an exceptional job. You know, I love what OK Player does. I love what Blavity does. I love what Atlanta Black Star does. You know, but there's also so much coonery going on out there as well, and call it what it is, culture vultures.
Yeah.
Folks that don't look like me. That's
what they're talking about.
That's selling to me.
Yep.
And packaging my shit and repackaging my shit and selling it back to me. So there's a, you know, so there's a weight that you feel too, where you have to take ownership of your culture and your messaging and your voice. So with that said, that's the direction we're looking to expand as well.
That's awesome. I'm here for that. Okay. And I agree. I agree. Have you ever thought about, this is a crazy question because you haven't yet, but have you ever thought about giving up in this journey of being an entrepreneur, of building upon brands, multiple brands? Have you ever thought about giving it up and going corporate or?
So yeah, so you know, I give all respects to you know, at that time she was my girlfriend, now she's my wife.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, for 5 years we lost money every year doing One Music Fest, and we're talking about high way up in the high six figures, you know. And you get to a point, you're like, you know what, man, fuck this. You know, if y'all don't understand what I'm trying to do and trying to produce and people. So you get to a point, right, to where you're like, you know, how much more can I do, right? And she really kind of broke it down and said, there's two ways to look at this thing. You can look at it as money lost or money invested. So you want to walk away from an investment? And I didn't, you know. I said, I get it. I'm investing in a brand.
Right.
I'm investing in an idea, in a mission. And then also speaking with Live Nation, speaking with other large festival producers, the people behind Coachella, Lollapalooza, Governor's Ball. The one thing that I kept hearing was festivals is a very tough business. And if you can make it 5 years, you'll break through. That's the breakthrough period. But they've lost tens of millions before they broke through. And they said if you can make it 5 years, you'll probably break through. And that's what happened. Year 6, we saw a little bit of daylight, and people started really getting it. So it takes a while for a culture or community to adopt a certain brand, or especially a festival.
Right.
So he's able to maintain, and yeah. So I got to give a lot of credit to.
Shout out to the wife.
Shout out to the wife.
Shout out to the wife. It's always, they say it's always a black woman,
That's
a
right.
woman
That's
in
right.
general that's behind a successful brand and business. So shout out to wifey. I wanted to ask you too, just in terms of like your favorite part of being an entrepreneur. What is that? What's your favorite part about working for yourself?
Definitely the creative aspect. You know what I mean? Like not feeling boxed in, right? Like really pushing the limits. not feeling really controlled so much.
Yeah, like you have
But
to answer to someone else necessarily.
well, we all answer to each other. We all hold each other very responsible for everything. Because my actions is going to affect,
Right.
what happens with the entire team. And there's a boss, but we don't really look at it as a boss. I mean, we're like revamping the office now, so there is no single man desk. Like we all work as a team at one table, right? So we all have responsibility to each other. But I would say that the number one thing about being an entrepreneur is the creative factor, and knowing that as far as what I'm doing, knowing that I'm affecting positively my community.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. And what would you say is the most challenging in terms of working for yourself and being an entrepreneur?
Time.
Time.
You just don't have enough time. So with children, with family, with travel, there is no day off. There is no clock out at 5:00. If the phone rings at 11, you picking up. If you got a big meeting for a big deal that could possibly go down, and they need to see you in LA on Wednesday, you need to be in LA on Wednesday, regardless if your son has a t-ball game. It's for what you're doing. But you can't get anywhere without sacrifice. So you have to really you have to weigh out your sacrifices. There's some things you say, you know what, I ain't gonna make it on Wednesday. I got something very important. I'll see you Thursday though.
Right.
And then that's the sacrifice you got to make, right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's your time, and it's the sacrifices, and I would think most entrepreneurs would say the same thing, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I agree. And balancing your family, because you have children, and balancing your family with doing all that you do, how?
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough, but you got to be, you got to embrace everything that you ask for, and a lot of times, he's gonna, not a lot of times, but sometimes he is or she is going to deliver that to you. So be careful what you ask for. It's I'm not gonna call it a curse, but it's a gift, and it's also a
responsibility.
It's a hell of a responsibility. It's a smack in the face of reality. But it all works itself out. I think and family is the anchor that keeps you kind of sane. And this year, and not this year, but I would say in the last 5 years, like we lost a lot of people in the music industry from just the pressure of the industry. And you need to, we have to learn to talk and open up, and sometimes that first tier of people that you need to talk and open up to is family.
Right.
And so many times we just, especially as black men, we just kind of lock up and think we're just supposed to be strong and powerful, and and a lot of times you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders and shit, and sometimes you feel like we got to carry it ourselves, but we don't.
Right.
And I think that's something that we really have to learn, that we don't have to carry the load alone. So it's okay to say no to some of these meetings and say, you know what, I just need to breathe. Let's catch up next week. The world ain't gonna stop rotating and shit if we don't see. If we don't do a sit down on Wednesday, give me a second to breathe, man, and open up to those people that care about you most, and let them know what you're going through. Maybe they can help you out.
What do you do? Do you meditate? Do you have what do you do for yourself in terms of? I know for me, I meditate or pray in the morning, whatever. What's your weight off? Like, what do you do to kind of get that clear mind space in the day?
I think it's just finding quiet time, and I love discovering new music. So God bless. I'm not gonna give them a shout out. They ain't spend no money with that shit, But all these different platforms online, as far as like music, you know, and discovering music.
Yeah.
So I like to discover music, listen to music, just totally just tune out. You know, partaking some medicinal support from Cali. But you know, just kind of just tuning out and just finding new artists and just exploring music and
Dope.
you know, and my family, we give each other enough space to where, you know, if I see the load getting heavy for the missus, I take on the load. If she sees it getting heavy for me, it's like just cool the fuck out, you know, go somewhere and relax a bit. So
That's what's up. What's your best piece of advice for a young person who is either looking to work in events or branch out into their own promotions for themselves as an entrepreneur? What's your best piece of advice to that person?
how young we talking?
Young, like out of college, 22, 23, where you were just leaving FAMU.
Millennial-ish?
Yes.
Millennial.
Uh-huh.
Cause they get. I mean, how old are you?
I'm a millennial, I guess.
Y'all get
I'm
a
24.
Bad, y'all get a bad rap, right?
Yeah, we do.
But I know a lot of dope young folk, you know. But I would say for the majority, you know, it's y'all grew up on a different wavelength, right?
Yeah.
You know, everything's microwave, everything's immediate.
I knew you were going to say that.
It is.
It is.
Everything's immediate. You know what I'm saying? Like back, you know, I'm not saying back in my day that we used the goddamn stone oven and shit, but yeah, you had to wait for dinner. You know what I'm saying? It was no goddamn instant, you know, magic that happened. So I think you guys in things move so fast, and be if it's a news feed or Snapchat, you know,
Music, everything.
Everything's moving so fast, so it doesn't give you a chance to stop and be a student. Be a fucking student, all right? Like, so, and everything that you see online ain't real, right? So the dude in the dope car with the Gucci and the traveling and shit, you know, I can make my life look so fucking fabulous online if all I did was just post those dope moments, right? So that picture grabs 1 second of time within my day, but you don't see all the other hustle and grind going on, right? So don't look at somebody's Instagram or Snapchat feed and think, oh my God, they're doing it.
They're living their best life.
They're living the best life.
Yeah.
That shit ain't real, right? So just be a student, you know. And I think I read somewhere like millennials, as far as the amount of time they spend with one job, it's ridiculous. I think it's like 6-7 months, and they're looking to move on to something else. How will you ever learn something if you just stuck with it for 6 months? And then you bounce to the next thing, then bounce to the next thing, then you just become this nomad that has 1,000 things listed on your resume, and now you have no to an employer. I don't see value in that.
Right.
'Cause I don't see commitment, right? So you're 26 years old, and I'm looking at 20 fucking jobs on your resume. Why would I want to hire you? What can you bring me if you're gonna bounce in 5 to 6 months? So show commitment, be a student, master something. You know what I'm saying? And don't feel like, you know, behind, you got to kick down every door in looking for a treasure. The treasure may be right where you are. You know, so I would just say, just slow down a little bit. Focus, like really focus on what makes you happy, and then find a teacher. God damn it, I forgot his name, but he's a South Korean billionaire. And he was just talking about business. And he said, if I could do it a certain way, he was saying what he would do from in his 20s, in his 30s, in his 40s, and in his 50s, right? And he said, in my 20s, the only thing I would have done in my entire 20s, from 20 to 29, is find somebody doing exactly what I want to do and follow them. That's it. Just be a student and learn. That's it. Then in his 30s to 40s, he would apply all of that, right? Then he said by then, by his 40s to 50s, then at that time you're reinvesting into your craft or your trade or your business or whatever you're growing. But he was talking about being a student for 10 years, right? And he's a billionaire, right? So that's somebody worth listening to, I think.
Right. I definitely want.
But yeah, I just slow down and be a student. Slow down and be a student, you know, and stop living your life in 140 characters and 60-second, you know,
10-second intervals.
Right.
That's true. That's very true. What as an employer, you said something about, you know, why would I want to hire you if you're not committed? What else or what other things are you looking for when you're looking to hire someone or work with someone even? What are those characteristics that you look for in a potential employee?
Hunger, enthusiasm, and just a fearlessness. You know what I mean? Like willing to try, willing to lose, and but wanting to win. You know, so I think enthusiasm, fearlessness, and that's something that actually my fraternity says. If you meet every goal with enthusiasm, it's hard to lose.
Right.
And so they like, I need to see ultimate enthusiasm in everything you do, and that shit is real. I think that shit is real. Meet every challenge with enthusiasm.
Earlier, I asked you about you attending college and graduating from college and how important that was for you. But there's a message that a lot of students or kids continue to hear, like, you know, for this industry, you don't need school. The value's not in an education. You know, people don't go to school and they become millionaires or whatever the case may be. And I've heard this even for me, going to school for radio, TV, and film, that you didn't really need that. You could have just interned and do what you do now. What's your opinion on that? And do you feel like it's still as valuable, your experience, from your experience being a student in college and graduating?
Yes.
Yes.
So 1,000% yes. I think your college experience will be some of the greatest years of your life, and I think that one of the easiest ways to kind of look at it or put it into perspective is your mind at 18 versus your mind at 22, 23 is totally fucking different. The man I was at 25 versus the man I was at 30 is totally different. Like, you're constantly growing and evolving, right?
Right.
So it's no different than you see a lot of kids, maybe 18, 19, that get picked up in the draft and go straight to the NBA. Some of them have it rough, and some have it a little better than others, right? But the maturity level
right.
at 18 is totally different than the maturity level at 22. But when you're 18, you don't understand that. You don't really see that, right? But what I will say is this: if you have an opportunity to go to college for 4 years on somebody else's dime, right? Be it if it's a scholarship or your parents, when in life will you be able to do anything on somebody else's dime for 4 fucking years? So my parents are going to send me to college for 4 years to another city, to another state, to invest in myself and be greater? Who the fuck is ever going to do that for you? So, you know, at 30 years, who will give me the opportunity to live, be it on campus or in an apartment, and basically for free, and invest in myself, where I can go to a campus full of tens of thousands of beautiful people from all different breaths of life, right? So, you know, I went to high school in Stone Mountain. Mm-hmm. I went to Redan High School.
Really?
Right? So that was my world. That was my, and not taking shots at Redan or Stone Mountain, but to put it in layman's terms, that was my little ass world, right? So suppose I don't go to college. So my network is that. That's my fucking world. Really?
Right.
My world is Stone Mountain. So I go to college, and like I said before, I'm meeting sons and daughters of prime ministers and folks from LA and Houston, and I'm being introduced to a whole world I didn't even know existed, right? And so I take all that, then on top of the education that I'm learning. So now I'm learning about business, I'm learning about finance, I'm learning about travel, I'm learning about economics, I'm learning about science, right? And so my world is just expanding and exploding, right? And as your world expands and explodes, you'll meet with different opportunities every fucking day in college. Opportunities. Taking it back to three guys sitting around in my crib talking about, let's do a movie about black college life.
Right.
And now they're making millions of dollars in Hollywood. That wouldn't have happened if I stayed my ass in little ass Stone Mountain, right? So I just think college just expands your world a millionfold on somebody else's dime. And I'm not saying you need to just kind of, mooch off mom and dad, but if mom and dad want you to go to college and they're going to pay for it, you are literally, there's no better word to say, but you're stupid. You're really stupid for not going to college if you have some parents that want to put you through school, or you have a school that wants to offer you money to come to college. There's no, I don't think there's no better platform to grow than college, especially from 18 years of age to 22.
I agree. I definitely agree. Being, or you talked about your wife and your family earlier as well. Being married, you've been married for a year.
Yeah, we've been together like 9 years.
Okay, so how do you think that being married and also having a family has either benefited you, or has there been any benefits from having that family within business? Because like as Kurt said, just like it's not always the cool thing to be this like exec or the boss who has, you just see a lot of like men, especially in the business, that just kind of, family is not a thing that you're highlighting in terms of being a businessman. So for you, how has that been a benefit, if it has?
Honestly, when I wasn't married with kids, when I would see people in the industry of business doing their shit and handling their job with family and kids, it just made them seem bigger. But again, before I was married, it was never like a thing like I aspired. I had to have a wife, and I always was one that thought, if when it comes, it comes.
Right.
Let me not seek it. Like when it happens, it happens. But I will tell you this: choosing your partner, your mate, is one of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life. I could see, I've witnessed situations where I see men and women pick not the best mate for them, and it hindered their growth. Or you've seen them go through, just bad situations. You need to be with somebody who's going to help, that won't, well, one, understand you, but also is going to fuel and feed you as well. There was what was the name of the book? I think it's Neo-Tech Discovery. But it's a, it's your, it just talks about relationships, right? And one of the things that it said is at a certain point, when you feel like you're the only person feeding the other person, you start losing interest. So, it has to be a two-way street of you all building each other. But as far as having kids, as far as being married, and someone asked me this yesterday, I just randomly and shit. Like it's probably one of the greatest things I think that could have happened to me or happened to my life and just business in general.
You think your focus shifted?
I think it's more focused,
Yeah.
and I think you get to a point where it's like, how long you gonna play these games? I mean, especially when you look at Atlanta. Atlanta's a big ass fucking playground, for black men and black women. Mm-hmm. It's Baskin Robbins. You can have any flavor, any color that you want in Atlanta. It is what it is. Let's just be real, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're in this city for a certain amount of time, and that's another thing. Atlanta is not a big city. It's a big town.
Right.
So if you can get out of the game with your reputation and your health, you know what I'm saying? Get out, get out the game, because after a while, I mean, all these circles start overlapping some.
Exactly.
You know, and at a point, at a certain point, it's like, you know, what more am I gonna do, right? What more am I gonna do? And if I keep driving down the same road over and over again, man, the view just never changes, and I have no idea what else is out there. So it does. Family keeps you focused. Children keep you focused. The right woman or the right man in your life will only make you better and greater. And like I said before, she was the one that kind of kept pushing me forward.
Right.
So I think that's very important, you know, to have that right. You know, she's definitely not a crutch or someone that's supporting me, but we're, you know, we're arm in arm, right? We're lifting each other up, man. So I mean, One Music Fest wouldn't still be here if it actually wasn't for her.
Awesome. Yeah, that family is a big thing for me too. I'm not married just yet, but I agree, and I think
Take
that
your time.
Yeah. You ain't gotta tell me. Listen, I'm trying to focus on myself right now.
Hey.
But I appreciate you, Jay Carter, for talking to us about what you're doing for the culture here in Atlanta and beyond. And I wish you best of luck with One Music Fest this year. I'm excited to come back.
Yeah, you was there last year?
Yeah, I was. I covered it. I got a video on YouTube and everything.
Yeah, dope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I got to check it out.
Yeah, you got to. But where can they find you on social media? Mm-hmm. Where can they follow you?
My personal social media is just J, the letter J Carter, J Carterology. So that's J Carter OLOGY, and that's Instagram. And One Music Fest is One Music Fest on all platforms, on IG, Twitter, Facebook.
Dope.
And Snapchat.
Okay. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in to the I Do Music Podcast. It's Sammy approved, and you can find me there on all social media platforms. Thank you again, Jay.
Thank you. And why is it so cold in here, Kurt?
You know studios be cold.
God damn, it's cold.
Sonically superior.